I'm going to tell you, I'm a late bloomer. I mean, I could have learned this a whole lot earlier in my life, and I don't know why I resisted it. I was always in some kind of training, but it was always emergency cardiac care. Let's go out and save lives. Yay! Right? But then when I retired, I realized that kicking in the doors didn't work anymore. Right? And I had to grow. And so I went through some leadership training. There we go. So let's talk about how to participate today. All right, because leadership is really about you. It's not about me. It's not about the other people in the room. It's about you. So if you fully participate in what we're doing here, I will promise you one thing: growth. Okay? Possibly transformation, if you really take some of these ideas on. So I want you to risk looking good to one another. That's not always easy to do, is it? We want to look good, right? But full participation in all the exercises that we're going to do too. Thank you. You can move it. All right, so leadership is influence. But a lot of people confuse it with power and desire and passion and drive. But influence is influencing others. So when you think about that, it's not about how strong you are, how smart you are. It's about who do you be for other people. Now my mother will go, "That is not good English." And I said, "But mother, inside of the science, it is. It is." So who do you be? Who are you being for other people in life? So a lot of people also think it's about drive and passion and risk and worrying about things, and really it's about desire to lead and being coachable and having integrity. And we're going to be talking about those later today too. Babies cry for it, grown men die for it, and leaders have plenty of it. What is it? It's recognition. So remember that in your leadership role, even though it may be a small one, your job is to recognize people for who they are, reward them, thank them. Because in doing so, who are you being for them? Inside of all these things, you're able to leave people touched, moved, and inspired about their life. So changing your results requires you to get out of your comfort zone. A lot of people think they gotta, get control over this or get out of the house and get moving. It's about getting out of your comfort zone. And whenever you get out of your comfort zone, you get that little twinge, that little stress. For me, it's a grinding of the teeth or a tension in my neck. So what you need to do is you need to look at that and you need to say, whoa, I'm getting out of my comfort zone. And in that, you have to risk looking good, don't you? Yeah. So questions. Your level of success is directly related to the questions that you ask yourself about yourself. So where are you in your business? If it's a training business, where are you in that? If it's being a pastor, where are you in that? If it's being a mother or whatever, where are you in that? So what do you want? What do you want for yourself in your life? Have you asked yourself that question? Have you written it down? Do you really know what it is you want? I set some goals for my little business that I started 36 years ago, and I reached them. And then I'd set them again, and I'd reach them, and I'd set them again, and I'd reach them. And I got lazy, and I quit setting them, and guess what? I quit reaching them. So really, about every month, you need to sit down and have a little quiet time with yourself and look and see, what have I gotten done and what do I want to reset as a goal? Les Brown is one of my coaches. And he has this one saying, and I remember it as a young mother with little kids running all over the place. And I was thinking, I was struggling to pay for diapers and milk on my firefighter salary. But he said, if you don't shoot for the moon, even if you don't get there, you're going to land among the stars. But if you don't shoot at all, you're going to stay on earth. There's no reaching that heaven of who you're really meant to be and called to be. So what dream could you really fulfill on? What is it you really want? Do you know? I want you to take a moment and I want you to just write down 3 goals that you want for yourself, your life, your business, whatever it is that you're up to. Take just a moment. And if you're retired, it's not too late, just so you know. I'm retired, still setting goals. And it doesn't matter whether it's a spiritual goal, a health, a family, a wealth goal, whatever. Just what is it do you want? What would you really like to have? Now we're going to come back and visit that later in today. So there's one thing that kills opportunity. It's a lack of a solid commitment. I want you to look at what you wrote. And I want you to think about what is required inside of that commitment. I have a friend in the speaking business, and when he saw what all we had to do, you've got to have a website, you've got to have video, you've got to have handouts, you've got to go and get coached, you have to have people to help you write. You have to have people to help you perform. And he goes, I don't want this. So you need to look at it and say, do I really want this? Because there is not a straight path to your goal. I promise you those roadblocks are going to come. No matter what they're called, no matter what they look like, they're going to come. Emotional intelligence is not just what a lot of people think about, which is being smart. As a leader, you're being judged, but you're being judged on how you handle people. So I want to ask you, how do you handle people? Who are you? This one was a rude awakening for me. Because inside the fire department, that firefighter mentality of kicking down doors and putting out fires, I had to realize that Sherrie had to change. Because if you don't like change, you're going to like your own irrelevance even less, right? I had to change. I had to become somebody different. I had to go out there and get this leadership training. And it was months after months of flying to Washington, D.C., 3-day weekends, coming back, going back up there, doing homework, working on myself. And inside of it, they said, you need another course. And guess what? I had to be coachable. I had to go do what was recommended to me to do. And you know what? It was the best thing I ever did. The smartest decision or choice that a leader can make is to be coachable. I have a team of people who help me, and one of them's Dee, and when Dee says, no, Sherrie, don't do it that way, we need to do it this way, that's his expertise. When it's Larissa, I say, okay, why do I have to do that? She tells me, and I say, okay, we got to do it that way. When it's Nikki, she says, no, stand like this, move like that. I have to be coachable. So getting up here or being a leader of people means you've got to be coachable to other people. And most people think, I'm the king of the hill. And they try to keep everybody off the top. And that's not what it's about. So we have human tendencies. We have some small ones and some big ones. But let's look at the small ones. We're normally pretty quick to grab and hold a fence. Something to notice. Are you quick to do that? Comparison, judgment, or are you envious of people? Getting or taking what's mine. We also live inside of what's called scarcity and fear. We fear there's not enough. We're not going to make it. How are we going to make it to the end? With big leadership thinking, we're thinking about being patient and loving to people. As a leader of an organization with over 700 instructors, I have to be forgiving sometimes. I have to say, okay, you understand what the rules are. We have to obey the rules. Will you keep your integrity moving forward? And if they say yes, I work with them. It's all about, are they coachable? It's not about, did they make a mistake? A uniqueness and appreciation for people, because every single one of you have this divine gift that you're given. And if you're going to be a leader, you have to recognize that gift in people, and you have to love and honor that gift. You also have to provide needs and wants. What do people around you want? What do they need? And I can tell you, one of the first slides we talked about was recognition. Be a person that says thank you. Be a person that loves and honors people for who they are. Abundance. You know, I think there's more than enough for all of us. I didn't always think that way. I wasn't sure there was going to be enough to make it at the end of payday. That's why I went out and got another job inside of being a firefighter. But there's really more than enough out there. But if you think more than enough is going to come by sitting there going, hey, I want more than enough, and not going out and working for it, it's not going to happen. Growth versus transformation is where we want to move from. So growth is these little steps, these baby steps, doing a little bit more, doing a little bit. That's going to take years. Based on your past and your experience. And I'm going to tell you, how many of you had something happen in your past that really stopped you and really messed you up for a moment and made you not want to move forward, right? You wanted to give up, right? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to gut it up and get past those hurts. Get past those things that stop us. And we're actually going to be doing an exercise today with that too. With growth, your identity is fixed. Can you move it back one? Your identity is fixed. It's the way we see it. It's the way it is for us. So I just want to challenge you that inside of, oh, it looks like this, it's really not that. There's something more there. You have to study things to really gather all the data and to be able and to understand. But you know what it really requires? I have to look at something that's uncomfortable or not easy, and I have to say, wow, there's some huge possibilities in here. Let me find them. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our psyche, our ego out, and we're going to shine it under the light. And we're going to have to dust it off a little bit. And we're going to have to study what's going on in our thinking, study what's going on in the way we be, and then we're going to have to make a choice. It's all about choices. So transformation, it's unprecedented. You walk out the door and you are forever changed. Here's the secret. It's a choice. It's a significant leap in what you're doing. Nikki and I just got back from the Influence Conference in Orlando. Wow, what a transformational conference that was. I actually saw possibilities that I didn't even know existed. I had this picture of where I want to be, and it was like right here, and now I don't have the wingspan for where I want to be. It was like my eyes were opened. Transformation is based on a vision. But a vision isn't just enough. You've got to have a commitment. And you have to promise to yourself inside of that commitment that you're going to follow through. And I promise you, it's going to look like an impossible situation. Now, most people, when they see the impossible, they run, right? They see that big fire, they run away. Remember that firefighter? That fire's out. It's a choice. That very first big fire is where I learned to make the choice, to face that fire. Folks, I've never seen a fire that wouldn't go out. Never. Our identity becomes fluid. There's a lot of room for conversation and interpretation of things. And things are not black and white. You can move it. So true insanity is doing the same thing over and over. Remember Freud? Who doesn't know Freud, right? So I call it head banging. How long are you going to bang your head? Doing things the same way you've always done them. And I'm going to tell you, it was a couple of years after I retired from the fire department, and I joined NSA, and I realized these people got something going on. I'm not up to their level. And that's when I invested in leadership training. I invested in a whole lot of other courses too. And it changed my life because I saw something in them that I didn't have. And it wasn't just faith, it was belief, and it was this knowing, just like that firefighter knew that fire was going. They know what it is that they wanted. So Houston, we have a problem. Go ahead. The problem is today we have this highly educated but entitled workforce. The world is about me, 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 me. Don't you agree? I mean, you're seeing it on Facebook. You're seeing it on the news. It's like they want to outdo one another just to try and get your attention. And I'm going to tell you, having been a person who's been involved in the media, I can promise you it's never the way it comes across. Not even the pension issues that are going on. They're never the way that they really say. No way can you really understand how that looks. The problem is teamwork is given lip service. Oh yeah, I'm part of the team. It's just something to notice. Are you really? Because if there's an unseen dynamic and you're sitting there and you're going, I don't like that person. She turns me off. I'm going to avoid her or him. And they're part of your team. Are you really being a team player? So inside of your leadership, you have to look at people. And there's people that I've looked at on the ambulance that were gangsters and drug addicts and homeless people. And they were filthy. And they were covered in all kinds of muck. And they smelled terrible. But inside there was a child of God. And it's just something to notice that each and every one of you represent that person, that child of God. And so inside your leadership, I challenge you to begin to look at people just a little bit differently, because there's beauty in every single one of us. There's something awesome inside of you. The question is, are you going to pull it out? Make that choice to pull it out and put it in full play inside your life. So communication, the biggest problem is we think it took place and it's really an illusion. It didn't take place. So let me give you an example. I've told him before. He knows better. Oh no, he just didn't do it again. And I'm sitting there and I'm having a conversation with who? But I'm not having a conversation with him, right? And I'm thinking, I've told him before, he knows this, he knows what I'm thinking right now. So he's supposed to look at me and tell what I'm thinking. So I would just challenge you that inside of it, whenever you see that messy person show up that's pointing a finger at someone, just remember that when you got one pointed at you, there's only 3 pointed back, right? And I would just challenge you that you could have a different choice. I could move over there and say, honey, we've talked about this before. I so love you, but I would really appreciate it if you wouldn't do this or if you would do that. And I said, when you do it, it makes me feel blah, blah, blah. But here's the key. There's something to neutrality. But hormones battle neutrality, don't they? How many of you had your hormones battle your neutrality? It's just something to notice. And I would challenge you that inside of that, you could recognize what's going on. So it's back to emotional intelligence. It's really self-awareness. And when I talk about self-awareness, just not what you look like, but what you're thinking. And who are you being inside of what you're thinking? So there's a problem, and the science shows that we actually delete, distort, and generalize communication. We create assumptions. I call it mind reading. Okay? And so I'll hear somebody say, oh yeah, and they did this, and I just know that blah, 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 and I'm sitting there going, wow, look at that. They're mind reading. They don't even know. So before we open our mouths as leaders with our little yeah, just consider that you have a choice. You could just go over there and clear the air with them. It's nice to do it neutrally, but still do it. Because you waste a lot of time in your mind reading if you're doing what we're discussing now. So leaders have, I want to have you document a problem that you're facing. So real quick, inside of your handouts, there's a place for you to just, now nobody's going to look at this. This is just for you. I want you to take a moment and write down a problem that you are facing right now. Now we're going to come back at the end and we're going to see how you would handle it differently. So go ahead and write it down and write just a little bit of how you think you might flip that situation. What could you do to work through that problem? All right. So let's go ahead and flip that slide, and we're going to move on to integrity, because integrity is going to help answer a lot of the questions that we have. Let's go ahead and flip that. And so what is integrity to you? Anybody?
Integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's watching.
It's doing the right thing when nobody's watching. What else?
Trust.
It's trust.
Honesty.
It's what? Honesty. All right. Let's go ahead and look at that. So I just want to give you a little scenario to work through. Let's say you're a trainer who teaches a course at work, whatever job it is that you have. Your buddy calls you and wants you to sell him the certification card because he doesn't have time to come to your class. What are you going to do? How are you going to handle that? But he's your buddy. You're friends. So what could you say to him inside of that situation?
I usually ask them if there's a time. Unfortunately, selling certifications, I do not do that. But I will be happy to work with you and schedule a time that's convenient for you so that we can get your certification taken care of. But you still have to come to the class.
But you don't understand. I can't go to work tomorrow, and I have to work until 10 o'clock tonight. Can you meet me at midnight to teach me?
I can. I'll be happy to.
Aren't you sweet? So yeah, you've got to think through your options, but you're pressured to help that friend out. I just want to let you realize that inside of your integrity, there's a lot of things that commingle with it. The first one is, what do you believe? I would challenge you that it's, what do you believe about yourself and who you are? And see, integrity really isn't what Nikki knows me to be. Integrity is who I be. So at my office, my employees, we have this game that we play, and if they ever question the integrity of something, they're free to bring it up. Because I don't even want it to look like, smell like, or taste like there's no integrity there. So if I say even one little off thing, they get to correct me. Why? I'm the leader, but I still have to be coachable. And it's also good team dynamics when you're coachable to one another, because that's really what teamwork is. So it's not only your beliefs, but your actions have to match with your integrity, but then your words have to match. So if I say something off-colored, or I say something like, I remember there's a comedian, and he has this little doll that says, "I kill you," right? Remember him? Yeah, funny guy. And I picked that up one day and I thought, I'll kill you. And then I thought, where's the integrity in that? I'm all about saving lives. So while it was funny in the moment, it didn't fit with the integrity of my words and who I be. So integrity pledge. Can y'all see this? Let's read it together. Integrity implies honesty, fairness, ethics, and moral character. Nothing hidden, being truthful and doing complete work, working from an empowering context, and doing very well at my work without cutting corners. In other words, I honor my word. Let's stop there. Integrity is your word, folks. Does your word mean anything? I would rather overpay than to cheat, because it's not about the money. It's about something bigger than the money. It's about my integrity. Go ahead and move it forward. So now we're going to talk about some tools that leaders need to work with. So one of the first one is situational awareness. Now, as an emergency responder and as a safety person, and that's my expertise today, is health and safety, I can't help but bring this up, especially to my lady friends and my men friends in the room, because it's not just about the ladies, it's about all of us. So there's something called situational awareness. And how many have just been having such a good time and you're with your friends and you're just doing all this kind of stuff, but you're really not aware of what's going on in the room? Okay, it happens at home. We go into what we call white awareness. You're laying on the couch, you're watching TV, maybe you got a glass of wine in your hand or whatever, and you are oblivious to what's going on outside. You're unaware and you're unprepared. But then you go outside When you go outside, you're a little bit more aware, aren't you? You maintain that awareness, but then you go to orange when you see or sense a threat. So you see someone running through the neighborhood, and you see someone chasing them. And so now you're focused on a threat. Your adrenaline actually picks up, and you increase your breathing. You're trying to get more oxygen to your brain so you can think clear, okay? With red, you have total focus on the threat. The accident just happened in front of you. You saw it happen. You're focused on that threat. You're watching for gasoline or whatever may be happening around the car. You have this emotional and instinctual response, and it's all heightened. Intellectual responses are lessened, and you get some time distortion with that too. It's also an adrenaline dump, so it increases your heart rate and your breathing rate even more. But usually, at this point, your fine motor skills start to weigh. You might actually get tunnel vision. Be aware of those, because inside of your leadership, I want you to become so aware of what's going on inside yourself that you notice the shift. And if you can begin to notice the shift in what's going on with you, you're going to be a lot safer out there. So when I leave my office late at night, I pull my keys out before I leave the safety of the door, right? I've got my keys. I've looked both ways. I don't just have my purse hanging on my shoulder. I have it strapped across, because if they want it from me, they're going to have to come and get it. I'm not going to let them take it easy, right? So think about these things that you do to make yourself a little more safe, okay? The other thing is, like the other day, my phone was almost dead, and I sat and charged my phone until I had a little bit of power, because what if I had a wreck on the way home? I wouldn't be able to call 911 or anything. That's situational awareness. And those little tricks will make a big difference to you in your life and your safety, not just for women, but for men. Leaders, we have to examine ourselves. Remember, I talked about shining ourselves and our thoughts and our ideas up in the light and dusting them off. So we have to examine, who do we be for other people? Now, in my heart of hearts, I was being a rescuer for myself, but I was being a champion for women. But I actually kind of beat up on a few men while I was doing it, just so you know. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, psychologically. And you know, when I got to really be present to who I was being, I realized that that wasn't treating those men as a child of God that they deserved to be. It's just something to notice. So anytime you're in an upset with somebody, you need to think about, who do you be for them? Now, this goes both ways. Who are they being for you? And that's simply a conversation to have with them, right? But remember, when you have what most people think is a heated conversation and you have it neutrally, just consider, I'm going to say this neutrally, but I'm still going to say it. That's powerful. People will listen to you when you stay calm and you stay neutral. Basically, I'm asking inside of your leadership that you consider opening yourself up to other possibilities in your life. Always be looking and watching and waiting for the next thing, because things are coming at you so fast that only grabbing onto one or two of them can make a tremendous difference in your life. And also know that anything you can examine, you can't shift it. You're going to be stuck with it. It's going to weight you down, and it's going to be like a ball and chain in your life, and you're not going to be free to be. So remember how to participate. You're going to be willing to participate, because we're going to get sticky here in a little bit. All right, good. So science, let's talk about science because we're going to be giving feedback to one another. First of all, it's just valuable information. Or not. You may not think it's valuable. But what if you actually listened to what somebody had to say and you actually learned from what they had to say? I took a class from a lady, and I referred to her gently as Nurse Ratched. I did not like her. I thought she was out to get me, but that was my story. But you know what? I learned a valuable lesson from her. So sometimes people come into our lives and you're like, why is this person showing up? You know what I learned? Who I didn't want to be. Think about that. And I still had to love her because transformation does come for people, right? Science of feedback. It's just data, and look for reasons to give positive feedback often. Because when you give a lot of positive feedback to people, you get them agreeing with you. I agree, I agree, I agree, I agree. And then you give them some neutral, negative feedback. They're actually trained to hear you. Do you see that? So lots of positive, then give your negative, and they will hear what you have to say. Delivering feedback. So now you've got to give some feedback to someone. First of all, it's just your experience. Now, a lot of people think, oh, it's the truth with a capital T. It's not necessarily a capital T. It's just, could be a little t. But it's what's true for them. So you've got to consider what they're saying to you. Your feedback simply describes your experience. And I'm going to tell you, and I've told this to all my coaches, I work best when you praise me, and then you just tag me, and then you praise me again. Because what happens is it's like a trick on the mind. They're agreeing, they tag, oh, agreeing, and you agree so fast that it's almost seamless. And then people think, wow, thank you for that feedback. So it's got to be delivered neutrally. But if you praise them, you tag them, and you praise them. I call it sandwiching the shock. You know, in CPR, we shock, CPR, shock, right? Or we CPR, shock, CPR. We always sandwich the shock with CPR, and it sticks. The same thing happens with your feedback. Next. So delivering feedback is not a judgment. It's just what is for you or what is for another. Now, I had a guy come up and tell me some feedback once, and I totally wasn't getting where he was coming from. But when I sat down and talked to him and I realized the story that was going on in his life, I understood why he thought it was that way. So I'm just going to tell you that you're going to get some feedback at times, and you're going to think, I don't know how that resonates. Now you've got to get over there and hear him, be in his hearing, and hear where he's coming from, and it'll totally change it for you. But most of us walk away going, no, I'm not listening. Talk to my hand because my face ain't listening. Just because you didn't like something they had to say. The real leaders, they hear everybody. They hear everybody. Even those little fussy budgets that see their glasses half empty, right? But there's some value in that. I have a girl in an organization, and she always sees the glass half empty. And the rest of us are full glass people. It's not even half full, it's full, right? But I see the value because she sees holes in things I can't see. So I have to respect who she is, and I have to just assume she's there for a reason, and I have to hear her. So feedback, it's not advice. It's not a psychological assessment. Consider that there could be some truth in it. When I went through the leadership class, it was like I was slapped with truth. Oh, Lord, I didn't realize it looked so ugly. I'm talking about myself, right? it just could be a blind spot for you. Wouldn't a blind spot be nice to know if you had one? Just notice it. Think on it. Simmer on it. Feedback, if someone gives you feedback and it doesn't land for you, the first time I hear it, I think, oh, okay, well, I might just ignore that. But if I hear it twice, it might be time to just take a look in the mirror and see what's there. But if somebody tells me I'm a horse the third time, so 3 times, it's time for me to saddle up, because I'm probably a horse at that point. So just consider that when information comes at you more than once, it's probably time to act on it. Your gut instinct is telling you something. So now I want to talk about a structured debriefing. So you have your team of people. You're all leaders, and you have a team of people that you work with. And you want to discuss some event or some issue that just happened, just went down. Okay, well, it's called a structured debriefing. So a structured debriefing is nothing more than an open-ended question. So if I say, my shirt is green, yes or no? You're going to say, yes. Yes. Okay, that's a close-ended question. But if I say to you, how do you like my clothes today? One thing you do is you look to see what I have on. And you start formulating something in your mind. You actually go inside and start critically thinking about what it is so that you can formulate an answer. So what an open-ended question does is that it opens the doors to people's minds. So if someone says, you need to do it this way, I call them, you can't make me. I don't want to, you can't make me. You know, when somebody's really bossy and forceful. So I was working in I'm an OSHA consultant, and I was in a plant once, and this guy was working on this particular machine, and he had obviously removed the guards, which would mean he could be missing 3 fingers tonight when he goes home. And so I went up, and I could have said, dude, are you crazy or something? You removed the guards. That's stupid. Put them back on. I would probably met Mr. Resistance. I'm not gonna, you can't make me, right? But instead I said to him, I said, hey, can you explain to me how this machine works? And so he goes into his critical thinking, and his highly self-flattering view goes, oh, she noticed me, and she wants me to show her, right? Which is good. That's good leadership, to get them thinking good of themselves. And he said, and we do this and we do that. And he goes, oh, and I removed the guards. And I'm like, oh, really? Why? Well, because they sped us up. We've got to produce 200 a day instead of 100. And I went, oh. So I have a request. And I wait until they say, what's your request? And I say, my request is you stop work immediately. Because they know who I am. I'm a safety expert. I'm there for safety. I request you stop work immediately. And I need you to put the guards back on. And the reason is because I don't want to explain to your wife at the hospital tonight why you're missing 3 of your fingers. I don't want to have to tell your little girl that you can't pick her up tonight because your hand is hurt. And so you make it about them. Do you see that? But you use critical thinking to do it. And then you use something about them to seal the deal. Now, what I do then is I go send myself an email with their name. On this date, blah, 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 they were counseled about removing the guards. And then I gave a direct request, not an order, but a request. So now if they don't follow through, there's another letter. And I just keep emailing myself, and when it comes time to write somebody up, I just cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste. Because emails have time, dates, and stamps on them, right? And so I have all the information of what happened, and then you just add the rules to it. So another way to use structured debriefing is, how do you think you did? How do you see this working? How is this explained to you? Because sometimes you're sitting there going, I cannot believe he just did that. Oh my God. Now, who trained him? Whoa. He's wrong. I'm right. We'll talk about wrong and right here in a little bit. Or I could say, how was this explained to you? Oh, well, Jimmy, he's gone now. He worked here for 20 years, and this is the way he showed us. Okay, now, whose fault is that? There's some company culpability there, right? Maybe a rule needs to be rewritten. Maybe training needs to take place. Whatever. Structured debriefing, and then we come to team dynamics. And this is my all-time favorite thing to teach. Team dynamics. Now, everybody knows inside of team dynamics, we've got clear roles and responsibility, right? We have clear communication. But I'm going to tell you, one of the most important things about team dynamics is mutual respect and inclusion of everybody. Even your gangsta friends. Even that person that you don't trust. If they're on your team, they're on your team. You're either going to be part of the team or you're not. So I just want to challenge you that are some people don't look like you, don't smell like you, don't eat the same things you do, but they're part of your team. And if they're part of your team, you've got to give them the respect of a team member. And I'm going to tell you, when I learned this lesson, it opened my eyes to levels you can never believe. And it juiced my life in such a way that I have become a different person because of the impact of those different people in my life. And it can happen for you too. We also do knowledge sharing. So Nikki and I are in NSA together. When this is over, Nikki's going to hammer me. Now, she knows she's got to praise me, tag me, praise me, but she's going to tell me. She's not going to hold mince words with me because I want to be coachable because I'm going to be there, right? I'm going to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. I'm doing it. And I've got to be coachable all the way. So we're a team in a way. Constructive intervention. Sometimes she goes, Sherrie, good God, no, stop. No, you move to the right of the stage and then So she will constructively intervene when I'm doing things wrong. Now, I want to tell you how that works in emergencies. Constructive intervention is huge. Because I was running a cardiac code and a physician told me while working on a pediatric patient, he said, give 3 milligrams of epinephrine. Now, you know what he meant, right? He meant 0.03, right? But he said 3. And I could have looked at him and I said, are you stupid or something? That would not have been a good thing to do. But I looked at him and said, hey, doc, you ordered 3, but you meant 0.03, right? Just respectfully told him. And he goes, what'd I say? Well, you said 3, but I know you meant 0.03. He goes, you're so right, thank you. And when the code was over, he came over to me and he held me by my shoulders and he said, thank you for being a good team player. Now, he's a physician. You know, their egos are, I can't reach that high. And I'm a lowly paramedic. But I was a good team player that day, and thank God that other people have intervened with me as well, because it takes a good team. Closed loop communication. Sherrie, give 3 milligrams. You said 3, that's closing the loop. You meant 0.03, that's constructive intervention. Do you get it? So when something's critical, you want to use these specific techniques. And then knowing one's limitations. When I was an EMT riding out on an ambulance, they told me to start an IV, and I said, I'm just an EMT, I can't do that yet. Or I could have said, oh, do I really get to? Yeah, and then I've been breaking the law, right? So know your limitations. I know my limitations, and I have to hire people to help me with the things that I'm not good at. That's because we're all designed to be part of a team. You're designed for teamwork. Even if you're the solo, I don't want to, you can't make me person. Just so you know, we're designed for teamwork. And then, of course, you're always reevaluating. We're always reevaluating. So we've already told the team dynamic story. Let's go ahead and roll that one forward. So team consideration. Just know that if you are part of a team requires deep level of communication and commitment to one another. So it's easy for me to have somebody come help me out here, but I have to be just as willing to go help them out there. You know what I'm saying? Make sure that you're giving back to people that are giving to you. Leaders must care enough to teach skill development as well as character. Because if you're going to be a leader, you have to be who it is you say you are. You have to live what it is you say you do. How many of you are leaders? In some way, we're leading something, right? We're leading something. And it's rigorous, but it's intentional. And it also needs to be impactful to create and cultivate good teams. So, one thing a leader can do is have what I call the difficult conversation. How many of you gone in your head and go, oh, good, I don't even want to talk to him. I don't want to talk to her. You know, I just automatically 0 to 60, I know that they're going to blow up and they're going to be a drama queen or king or whatever, right? Well, if you're a leader, you've got to have those difficult conversations, period. You just have to have them. So I want you to consider that when you're having a difficult conversation, before you talk to somebody, listen and separate out what happened versus what the emotions are with what happened. And then separate out your identity inside of it. Because I promise you, your highly self-flattering view, and we know as the ego, is going to show up, right? It's going to show up. And sometimes I just have to quiet her. Sometimes I have to slap her really hard, right? And I have to take the emotion out. And then I begin a debrief. You already know how to do a debrief, right? You're going to ask questions. Ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. And somebody goes, I don't have this much time. Leaders do. What I've learned to do is delegate. I get other people to do it. I pay them to do it so that I can be free to be a leader. That's what it requires. So inside a difficult conversation, you've got to explore their story, but you also have to explore your own. Just so you know, you have your own story. And to be fair, you've got to explore that story. So one thing I want you to walk away, a takeaway, is what are the conversations you're having with yourself? What are they? Are they stopping you in any way? Are they keeping you from who you want to be as a leader? Consider it's an opportunity to turn a negative into a positive. So inside of the impossible situation, leaders create possibility, right? Leaders are not afraid of the difficult. So when I hear of difficult situations and people who don't say something that they just should have said, I'm always going, wow, look at that. I could have said blah, blah, blah. I could have challenged this. I could have asked a question. I could have, you know what I'm saying? Instead, we run away from that and we start making it up. And we start creating all this negative possibility, and the more you speak it, the more of it you're going to get. It's what science says. So, leaders have a takeoff rule. Sherrie, the firefighter, had to take off forcing and controlling. It was so hard to do. But I finally did it, and then I realized it was easy. Making others wrong. Just notice, I challenge you as you leave here today, if there's somebody that you're making wrong about something, I want you to think about that. Maybe there's a middle road. Maybe it's not as wrong as you think. I'm going to take off being in charge. I have an actual couple of employees that tell me, Anya tells me who to be, doesn't she? She goes, no ma'am, you can't do that. I mean, she gets in your mess kitten too, doesn't she? Yeah. She is like black and white. And so I've learned to say, okay, you're past this part, but got to go do your paperwork with Anya because she's a whole nother animal, right? But she's good at what she does, right? And I have to respect that. Competition. I was so competitive. It was crazy. I think it came from the basketball thing. I don't know, maybe. But I was competitive. And the more they told me you can't, the more I moved towards, have I got a trick for you? I'm fake it till you make it, baby. Or faith it till you make it, one or the other. And then also winning strategies. So there were some winning strategies for me inside the fire department of being bold and being unstoppable that really didn't work for me in my business with my clients and with my instructors. And I had to change that too. I had to create a new possibility for myself. There's also a try-on rule. So inside some of the things that we do today, I want you to try on team dynamics. Try on being of service to people. And try on loving and caring for others, even those scallywags. You know, those scallywags that cut off my mask. Those scallywags that did all the things that happened over the years. When I was able to let go of that and just love them and be with them, it changed me. And it'll change you too. So consider that if you've got any kind of issue going on in your life right now, we're usually the common denominator. So people say, yeah, well, I want to change this, I want to change it. But when it really comes down to it, they don't want to change, right? I'm going to challenge you inside of your leadership to be the change. How do we be the change? Life doesn't get better by chance, it gets better by change. So you have to embrace change because it's coming. Just so you know, that's the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a 100 mile an hour steam change that's fixing to roll over you. And if you don't like change, you're going to like your own irrelevance even less. So I'm constantly having to morph, I'm having to change. And it's like, okay, I have a conversation about that. My conversation used to be, I can resist it. And what happens is you get left behind and you become irrelevant. Or you can say, I'm going to flow with it. I'm going to roll with it. I got this, baby. I can do it. And it's all inside your thinking. It's a choice. The only way to make sense of change is just dive in. You can loathe it, you can love it, but it's happening. So now we're going to talk just a little bit about lesson number 3, which is intent versus impact. So how many of you have good intentions? Yeah, we all have good intentions. My question is inside of leadership, it's not about your good intentions at all. It's about your impact. How do you lead people? Go ahead. So you know your intent, but do you know your impact? You see, you know your intentions and your intentions are good, and then when things go wrong, you're like, oh my God, I had all these good intentions. But do you know your impact on other people? We make assumptions based on our impact, based on our intentions. Others know our impact and are totally unaware of your good intentions, so quit worrying about them. Start focusing on what is your impact on other people. How do you impact? You can move it forward. So our intentions tend to be much more real than our actions. Just so you know. This is how our mind plays tricks on us. our actions tend to be much more real than our intentions to others. So what we have is it leads to a great deal of misunderstanding. You know, I and my pastor have talked about various things that have gone on inside the church and inside of our lives. And we laugh about this because it shows up repetitively, where we thought one thing and it was another, or we thought this and it was that. And I'm going to tell you, what hindsight shows you is that you're neither right nor wrong. It just is, and it's just human, our human nature to communicate that way. Go ahead and roll it. So we want to talk a little bit about contribution versus blame. So I teach a lot of this with my instructors. These 700 instructors, they sometimes they get in trouble, or we get a complaint, or I have to do an investigation. So I just want you to know that if you're ever put in a situation of doing this, that you've got to figure out what's your story, because you have a story. You've got to figure out what the other person's story is, and you've got to figure out what the observer's story is. So I had the American Heart call me one day and complain on one of my instructors, and the story in my head was, nuh-uh, not her. She's one of my premier instructors. But I had to do an investigation. Now, I'm going to tell you, my highly self-flattering view says, Sherrie, you were right. Because she was great. It was just an employee had gotten fired and did a bunch of complaining, so that was washed away. But I noticed that my own story was the very first thing to show up. Contribution encourages learning and change, and it's easier to raise the issues when you take yourself and your own story out and go learn the other people's story. But you know what that requires? Listening. And most of us are sitting there trying to think of something to say when we're supposed to be listening. So we're going to do an exercise with this later. So what are some of the contributions that you can make to a problem situation? And I had to recognize that too, that I was part of some of these problems, and I had to go in as a leader and really analyze my role in the whole thing and how it skewed my view. So we're going to do an exercise really quick. So I need you to have a partner. So we're going to have you two turn. Dee, would you come be her partner? Ty, you can be Nikki's partner. Okay, has everybody got a partner? You two can turn around. All right, so what I want you to do is have your thumbs just like this and interlock your fingers. The object is to get the other person's thumb down. That's the object. Okay? On your mark. Get set. Go. Oh, wow. All right, so who are the winners? Winner! That was me. Not only was I a winner, I slammed my hand on the table and I said, yeah, baby. Yeah, it was pretty gruesome. So what did you discover about yourself and your partner during this little exercise? Angie, did you let him win?
No, he submitted to me.
He submitted to you? Oh, he's a great guy then. All right, so ask your partner really quick how it went for them. Describe your attitude while you're doing it. What was your mood? Okay, so what do you think is needed inside of your leadership based on that exercise? What do you think? What does your partner think? Did you notice that it was a competition? How many of you had a competition going on out there? Yeah. Most of you, it was a competition. So let me ask you, let's do this again. Put your hands up. Now, one of you put together with your partner. All right, you ready? So what I want you to do is one of you ask the other person to put their thumb down. So what changed? What shifted in that? What shifted? It's a power exercise. So inside your leadership, we think we have to force and control things. We think we have to have power over people. And sometimes it's just a request. It's just a simple request. Remember Cap? Cap, I just feel kind of weird when they're all doing that. I want to be thought of as a professional. What if inside your leadership, all you had to do is make a request to people? And it could be that easy. And it didn't have to be a power struggle. So another thing I want you to do is when you walk out of here today and you see a power struggle going on, I want you to say to yourself, it's really not there, it's just here. Maybe I could just make a request. Now you're going to have some people there. I'm not going to. You can't make them. And I'm going to tell you, it takes time to get them out of their unstuckedness. It's my new word, right? But yeah, what if you could just make a request? How much easier would that be? Stress-wise, otherwise, could change your life. So we want to talk about realities. So just to get you familiar with it, it's all your belief systems. It's all the things that cause you to believe the way you do, and it's based on your culture. It's based on your experience, your family history. It even includes your education, your religion, and so much more. And so when we have these limiting or these belief systems, some of them are limiting, some of them aren't, but when you have these systems, it defines you in your behavior a lot of times. Now, the way I challenge my limiting beliefs is a couple of ways, but one of them is, am I being loving inside of that belief? Am I loving people? You know? So if I'm so hardcore that I can't be with somebody, is that being loving? If I'm being so forceful that I can't agree with somebody, or I'm so determined, is that being loving? If I'm so offended by something somebody did, is that being loving? There's no love in offense. There's no love in discrimination. There's no love in unkindness. There's no love in that. And leadership really is about loving people. That's what leaders do. So we have limiting beliefs. Some of us have a limiting belief called I'm not good enough. I mean, there's all kinds of limiting beliefs out there. I actually had a girl in a class once, and she was taking a pediatric advanced life support course. Now, it's a pretty intimidating course. Go ahead and roll it. It's a pretty intimidating course. And what happened in the course is that she was talking about, yeah, I had this kid died and it was a disaster and nobody knew what to do, and I've taken this class 3 times and I failed it, and I'm just not sure that I should even be here. Now, how do you handle that? What are you going to do with that? That's some sticky, icky stuff, right? And it's based on things that happened when? Yeah, it happened 8 years prior. So she'd already blown it and told everybody in the class. So I said, okay, do you want to clean this up? And she goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, it's a story and it's a limiting belief. Do you want to clean it up? And she goes, well, yeah, sure, I'll clean it up. And I said, okay, I got a question. What happened? And she told me, baby died. It was a disaster. Nobody knew what to do, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what'd you make it mean? Well, I made it mean I was no good at being a nurse. I made it mean that I can't pass PALS. And I made it mean that I should change my career. And I said, how long ago did this happen? 8 years ago. Oh, this is 8 years ago? That's in the past, right? It's not here in your future, it's in your past. And I erased it off the board. I said, it no longer exists. What are you living with? She was living with what she made it mean. And I said, did the parents tell you this? That you were no good at a nurse and you should probably change careers? And that you can't pass this course? And she goes, no. Well, did the doctor tell you that? No. Well, who said it? And when I said, is there a chance that you said it? Folks, I'm telling you, there's science that says and proves that there's life and death in the power of your words. So what are you speaking? What are you speaking to yourself and what are you speaking to other people? It's just something to notice inside of your leadership, because there really is life and death in the power of your words. So how would you handle that? I don't know. I took 3 minutes. It was a 3-minute diversion. And we got her clear on her story, on her meaning. But when I erased the entire board, what was she left with? Tabula rasa, a clean slate. So when you do this exercise with people, you know, I draw the circles and I let them see it, then I erase it and I say, okay, these you don't speak anymore. What do you want to speak? Who do you want to be? What do you want for yourself in your life? And you know what she said? She said, well, I really want to finish my career as a nurse and I'd like to pass this class. And I'd like to be a good team player inside of a cardiac event with a kid. And I said, okay, speak it. And she spoke it. And I said, okay, get in that class and do it. Get in there in that room and do it. And you know what? She passed the written exam. And then I had a physician that was being trained as the instructor. And we had her step out of the room. And I said, how do you think she did? And he goes, Sherrie, she did it better than most of my doctors. Here's the thing you need to know about that story. This lady came back, and in a couple years, she's now a PALS instructor. She just didn't pass the class and keep her job. She completely transformed, not changed, not growth, but she transformed who she was inside of her life and became a different person because of a choice. And you just have to show people the choices that they have. That's what leaders do, is they show them that they have a different choice. So you can roll it. So there's power in your words. If you decree a thing, it's so. But there's actual science that now matches that scripture up there, and it says that we create neural pathways with our words. So when we speak it, we actually create and go about making it so. So my question is, what are you saying about yourself, your life, your children, your job, your boss? What are you saying? And inside of what you're saying, who are you being for all those people? So it was a simple formula. What happened? Child died, event was a disaster, nothing worked, interpretation, or what I love to call the self-fulfilling prophecy. No good at nursing, can't pass PALS, change from nursing career. Next slide. Give people a blank slate. Give them a blank slate. Let them write what they really want. And it starts with a thought, and it starts with writing, and it starts with thinking. But you know what? Coach said, you can win. You will win. And I said, I can? I can. I can. I can. And it took a while for me to get it. Be the person that helps them get it. Be the person that shows them possibility inside of their life. That's what leaders do. So where does your past belong? Normally I pick up a chair or something. If you're walking with that story, whatever it is inside your life, and I try to come and hug you and I'm holding this big story, what's going to happen? What's getting in the way of our friendship? Set it down. Let it go. Create a new possibility. Go ahead. All right, I think this is a good time for a break. Let's take a quick break. It's almost 12. We'll see you back here in about 10 minutes. We're back. How was your break?
Wonderful. Awesome.
All right, good. So we're at characteristics of a leader. So what are some of the characteristics of a leader? First of all, we're learners. How many of you are lifetime learners? Lifetime learner, oh, it makes a huge difference. And it makes life fun, doesn't it? It does for me. How about ears to hear? We're good listeners. We're going to talk about that too. Adaptability. How many of you are adaptable to the situation? That means you've got what it takes to navigate and negotiate through different kinds of situations and with different people. What about we've got some clear direction, some clear vision? And then environment, we create the environment for others. That means when I go on stage, the light switch turns off all the other voices, all the other stories, and it's about being with people. And it's the same thing inside your leadership. And then, of course, we're resource and we're responsibility for others. So let's talk about learners. Learners are perpetual learners. They adopt, and when you adopt a learning stance in life, and you're willing to challenge status quo, as a female firefighter in a man's world in the 70s, I was definitely challenging status quo. Our own, even have to challenge my own winning strategies and assumptions. And we recognize that our view is not always complete. So we think we got it going on when really we barely got one leg in the pants, right? And we would get all of it done if we had a good team. And you got to build the team, right? Oh, did I tell you there's a prize for whoever participates in this next segment the best? Okay, just checking. It's impossible for a man to begin to learn what he thinks he already knows. I've had many people come to the leadership and they go, wow, I didn't know that's what leadership was about. Well, there's various kinds of leadership. Mine is about who are you being? Who am I being? Who are we being for people in the world? So learning is kindling to a fire. It burns brighter and puts up more heat, but it never exhausts your mind. I mean, sometimes I'll go to sleep with a book in my hand. And sometimes I'll think about something that I read that was powerful and life-changing, and then I end up kind of dreaming about it and then seeing it show up in my life later on, just because I grabbed it instead of the remote. It's just something to notice. Not attained by chance. It must be sought after with determination and diligence. And it's going to give you a passport to a great future. So I wouldn't suggest you stop now. One thing we're doing at our organization is we have already gone and done this 6 months leadership course, and we've actually already picked out the next leadership course that we're bringing back and giving to all of our instructors for their leadership, because our goal is to make you so strong and so powerful and so good at what you do that it changes your world. So we have ears to hear. We're generous listeners. We've got to listen one another. We're aware of our own internal conversations because we're listening to that too. How many of you have been sitting there talking to somebody and you hear your own voice and you're actually over here formulating what you're going to say to them? And sometimes the conversation is, Sherrie, shut up and look at them look at in their eyes, shut up. What you think? Oh, there you go. You've got eye contact. Very good. Steady. Listen. Because my mind wants to take over and I want to formulate an answer and I want to blah, blah, blah. And the more I blah, 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 the less I learn. It's just something to notice. I notice it about myself. So listening both internally and externally gives you a platform which you can dive off of in many different directions. So there's a power to silence. There's power in silence. How many of you get quiet in the morning, get still? Yeah. Just, you don't really have to think of nothing. You just have to be in that moment, and it's amazing what will come up for you. But when I get quiet and I get still and I get silent when someone's speaking, then I actually hear them. But it's a battle at times. There's that conversation going on. It's called Shut Up, Sherrie. Shut up. So it turns your filter off when you're silent. It provides a rest in your conversation. It allows you to think. But it also allows you to listen. So we're going to do a quick exercise. So you're going to need your partner for this again. We got partner. Okay, perfect. So everybody's got a partner. So one of you is going to be A, and one of you is going to be B. Now I'm going to come down on the floor and be with you for this particular exercise. Okay, partner A, your job is to tell partner B about what it was to drive here. Like, what did you have to do? You had to get up, you had to take care of the kids, you had to feed the dog, you had to do whatever's there, okay? So you're going to tell them, partner B, you have a very specific job. You can pick up your phone, you can check your emails, you can check your Facebook, but you must ignore partner A while they're talking. All right? Are you ready? On your mark. Get set. Go. All right, stop. So, who was ignored? How did it feel?
Annoying.
It was annoying.
It made me want to give extreme detail to my situation this morning because he wasn't listening.
Oh, you wanted to give extreme detail, emphasize, because he was not listening to you. Yeah, what else? Who was ignored over here? You didn't like it, did you?
So weird.
It was weird. How about you?
I was ignored, but I turned it around and made it a challenge. Because I made her chuckle and she broke her stone face.
Oh, okay, so okay, good.
Same with Corey. He laughed because he was actually listening. I'm like, you're supposed to be ignoring me.
Yeah.
But
Well, did you ignore her, Corey? She's pretty hard to ignore, isn't she? Yeah, I got it. I got it. So now what we want to do is we want to do this a little bit differently. This time we're going to listen with your ears. And I want you to listen in such a way you could paraphrase or restate, maybe not exactly, but similar to what they had to say. So you got to pay attention, right? I also want you to do it because it makes people feel heard, okay, when you paraphrase or restate. And sometimes it helps to even ask a clarifying question. Oh, really? She did that? Oh, you see? So it makes them feel heard when you do that. Next slide. I want you to listen with your eyes. So there's a little dark pupil inside your eye, and as a healthcare professional, that communicates to me. I mean, it tells me a whole lot. I can talk about, I can tell if you're having a stroke, sometimes whether or not you're on pain meds or any kind of central nervous system depressant. I can see a lot of things in those eyes. But I want you to look to their eyes, because their eyes are the window of their soul. And when you look people in the eye, they feel profoundly touched by that. They feel like you're really present. And then look at that little pupil, okay? Next slide. And I want you to listen for the third thing, and I call it the story in the background. So all of us have a story in the background. Do you know that? I hear them. I hear them. So what is the story in the background? Usually it's something along the lines of, you know, what they aspire to, or what their desire to be, or whatever. But I want you to listen to it and see if you hear it. Now, there's a reason we're doing this exercise this way, and it's because you want to build rapid rapport with people. So as a paramedic, if I went down and I had a patient, I want to build rapid rapport. I'm not going to stand over him like this, right? Okay, so I get down on eye level, I get down on my knees, I become a servant where I can make eye contact, because I'm fixing to touch him. I'm fixing to get into his intimate space. And you've got to get permission, and you've got to get people in agreement with you, and you do that by using these skills. Now, how many of you have got a team that you want to get in agreement with you? So you need spend a little time prepping them, right? This is how you prep them. This is how you get them in agreement with you. So you're listening for what they say, but you're also listening for that second story in the background. Now, if you don't find it, it's okay. We'll find it for you and show you how it's there. The key to building rapport is to hear that story and acknowledge them for that story. Okay? Now, I'm just going to tell you, guys, if you will come in and do this skill with your wife the first 5 minutes when you're home from work, or girls to guys, with the first 5 minutes, just give them total attention. Hear their stories, thank them. It's a winner-winner, if you know what I mean. All right, it pays off dividends. That's all I can say. All right, A, you're going to listen this time. B, you're going to talk. You're going to tell your partner what it took for you to get here today. I had to get up at 6, I had to blah, 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 whatever's there. On your mark and set, go. Okay, and stop. Let's start with you. Who was talking?
Mr. B.
Okay, so what did he tell you?
He told me that he had to wake up at 5:30 this morning, shave and get dressed, and then that his wife woke up at 2 because she's been battling bronchitis for about a week now. And she's normally a late sleeper, but then she woke up at 7, and then normally she sleeps until 9. And so he had to deal with all of that before he got here.
Wow, what's the story in the background with D?
The story in the background sounds like he's an early riser, but right now his wife is sick, and he's thinking about her because this is different for him.
He loves her, doesn't he?
He does love her.
Wow. You do love her, don't you, D? Yeah. Do you see that? I mean, just that little thing. Why are you so touched? It's nice to be heard, isn't it? Yeah, I get it. I get it. Awesome. That was a hair on the back of my neck. Okay, who was talking?
Me.
Oh, you were talking. So she has to tell us what you said. What did she say?
She told me about
her morning and how she got here really early because she wanted to leave early. She likes to be on time, and she didn't want to have to ride with her husband because he gets nervous in traffic. And so she ended up getting to the parking lot at 8 o'clock. But she wanted to stay at the hotel because the hotel was nice.
Oh, wow. What's the story in the background with her?
I think she's frustrated with her husband's driving.
Okay, she could be, but it's better to build rapport on something a little more positive. What's positive in the background?
She likes to be taken care of. She likes the hotel, so she wants to be comfortable.
Well, that, and I think she wants to be on time, and she's concerned about, being there and being present and that kind of thing. And so I would tell you, wow, thanks. That's one of mine too. So now we identify together. Of course, we always have, right?
Right.
So who was talking back there?
I was.
So what did she say, Corey?
She was telling me about how she was up pretty late last night, and she was just so excited about being here that she couldn't get a wink of sleep. And then when I came and laid next to her for a little while, then she was able to fall back asleep, and then she assumed then that I had set the alarm clock, but I hadn't, and that was about it. Yeah.
So what's the story in the background with her?
She, I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know.
No, I'm just being honest. I could.
What's the story in the background with you?
I depend on Corey in more ways than not because I just assumed that he was going to have the alarm set. So, and because he came to bed and made me feel comfortable, I was finally able to sleep. So I just assumed that because it was a normal work day for him, that alarm was going to be set, we were just going to be here on time. But yeah, that's much.
She loves you, Corey. You get that? Yeah. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Do you get that we get that? Yeah. It's kind of nice when you know people, when you can hear people. Okay, over here. Who was talking? She was? So you get to tell us what she said.
She had said that she woke up, got ready. She came from Arlington. It took maybe an hour to an hour and a half. She said that she lived by herself and that she couldn't wait to get here. So that showed me that she is an independent woman with a purpose in life.
Wow. How'd that feel?
He's spot on.
He's spot on. It's nice when somebody gets you. Who was talking?
I was talking.
Uh-oh. You want to tell us what she said? No? It's okay if you don't want to tell us. What'd you say?
Well, I talked about getting up early this morning and how I really like to take my time and relax, but I was here to support a friend, so it motivated me.
Yes, I hear the story in the background. Thank you. But do you see how that works? It's just a little tiny thing. But it's a little tiny thing that can make a difference in building rapport with your team. It says, I care enough about you to hear you. And it means you've got to learn to take time with people. You've got to learn to hear them. You've got to care about who they are and what they're up to. And when you do that, it makes that team connection so much tighter. Now, what do you think they're going to do for you? That's building rapport. That's building team friendships. That's building commitment toward one another. So it's really a great skill. So my challenge for you when you leave here today is to start to hear people's stories in their background. Sometimes it's their highly self-flattering view. Because I'll sit there and I'll go, wow, look at that. There's their highly self-flattering view. Shut up, Sherrie, you have one too. You know? That's what I start saying, because I'll notice it in others, and then it's almost like, okay, you do it too. We're all in the same humanity. We all do this stuff. So just now make a game of it. But learn to honor people for who they are and what they do. So we've done the listening. I want you to listen with not with the intent just to understand. I mean, not to just hear, but to understand people. You see, you want to understand who they are at their core. Okay? Because when you listen that way, you'll know how to reply. And so you have a whole new level of replying when you actually listen fully to what it is they're saying. Now, there's some people that are high-level thinkers that are so analytical that I'm like, I don't know which ball the walls, the racquetball's coming off of next with them. I mean, there's some that are tough, but you can still hear the story in the background. Next slide. So leaders, we're adaptable. Leaders adapt to different people, beliefs, situations. We're flexible. We assess the situation and then we move accordingly. Okay? Be adaptable. So I want to challenge you that on Facebook and in the news, there's all this offense and all this hatred and all this stuff going on. And I'm going to tell you, I've really kind of come to the realization, since I know media, I can't trust them. And it's like I'm just better off if I don't listen to a lot of that. I want to know what the weather's like. I wanted to know that, I had a friend in town yesterday that was going to SMU, and I said, hey, we got 2 presidents going to be there, traffic's going to be bad, leave early. I want to know that kind of stuff, but I don't want to hear about all the rest of that. And when you hear it, just know that hardly even half of it is true. So, adapt. If you don't like change, you'll like your own irrelevance even less. That's what General Sosinski in the U.S. Army says. We got to learn to overcome things. That means we've got to change. We've got to be adaptable to situations. Next slide. So that means we got to be willing to get uncomfortable. I'm going to tell you, I speak and teach all the time, but it's not comfortable having bright lights shining down, showing every ounce of everything it's not comfortable. But consider that if I don't do it, who am I being for you? You see what I'm saying? If I don't get up on that stage, if I don't get down in that ditch and pull that person out, if I don't get uncomfortable, and let me tell you, there was a lot of times that I was uncomfortable. We had a guy jump off the Trinity River Bridge in downtown Dallas, something drug on his boat, car didn't stop, he had to jump off to save his own life, and I had to park my ambulance up on the side of the hill and go through the muddy marsh with gators and snakes and crawly things at, I don't know, it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. My little flashlight that we were carrying went out, had a pin light, put in my mouth. Every step you took was up mud up to your knees. I had to get uncomfortable. But you know what? Somebody's life was saved because I got uncomfortable. And I couldn't be who I said I was going to be had I not got uncomfortable. You're going to have to get uncomfortable too. You're going to have to hang in there and get things done when you don't really want to. Blaze a trail, leave it for others. Leaders have directions. We're focused. Go ahead, next slide. We're focused and we're purposeful. So I had to learn to slow it down when I retired because I was going 90-0. Hell's bells, balls to the walls, Louise, right? And I had to slow down. And I had to play game differently. Thank God I slowed down. I'd probably be dead if I hadn't, because I was always going 90-0. But you can't get distracted by your problems. You got to keep the goal in mind. What was the goal for me? Was I thought I wanted to possibly retire from this job. I mean, I knew I wanted to be a rescuer. Well, what other rescuer job was there, right? So I had to keep that goal in mind, even in the face of gutted up girl. Even in the face of I'm not gonna, you can't make me. Even in the face of all those issues that we face, you've got to keep the goal in mind. So it creates a clearing for other people when you have some clarity in your life about who you're being. Next slide. We create this environment of transformation for other people. What do I mean by that? It's not just change. It's forever changed. It's not just a moment change, but it's a change that they walk through the rest of their life with. And it comes inside of the possibilities that you create for them. There is nothing sweeter than somebody appreciating your work. You've got to learn to appreciate other people's work. Thank them for it. And then when you do, giving them feedback's a piece of cake, because you've trained them to hear you. You've trained them to listen. So be aware of your power and your influence in that area. Next slide. So who are you being? It's my question. Who are you being when you do a report? Who are you being when you're counseling? Who are you being when you're meeting? Who are you being inside of your forgiveness? Have you got anybody out there you need to forgive? It's just something to notice. Are you being loving and related? Is your integrity intact? Are you treating them fairly? Are you paying your debts? I mean, these are just things that are leadership. You say you want to be a leader. You're here for leadership, right? These are the kind of things we're talking about. But then honest yet neutral feedback. Next slide. So I like to lead people with, where is your focus? What are you focusing on? Now, there's an old story, and you probably heard it. It's been on the internet. But to me, it's such a powerful story. And this old Indian chief takes his son, his grandson, hunting. And they go out and they kill their deer and whatever, and they come back to the campground, and they've got a fire going. And that fire is crackling up into the cool night air. And all of a sudden, the grandson hears, "Oh!" And he turns to Grandpa and he goes, "Grandpa, what was that?" And he said, "That's the wolf." And the grandson said, "Well, is it a good wolf or is it a bad wolf?" And he goes, "A wolf is just like you and I. There's a good side and there's a bad side. The bad side, it's full of envy, anger, sorrow, grief, resentment, inferiority, superiority. You name them, they're there. The good wolf is full of love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and understanding, compassion and faith." And the grandson kind of scratches his head and he says, "But Grandpa, which wolf wins?" Grandpa steps back and he's smiling because he knows his grandson is going to get the most important lesson in life. And he said, "The wolf that wins is the wolf you feed." So which wolf are you feeding inside your life, your business, your family life? Mama told me that if I really wanted to be a success, I had to be a success at home first. And when I was a success at home, then I could move out from there. She said, "But don't you go out trying to save the world until you take care of your own first. That's your first priority right there." It's just something to notice. What kind of choices are you making? Next slide. So some people are so permanently angry, or they're in this constant state of feeling sorry for themselves. How many of you know these people? You know somebody like this, right? The explanation, it's a common way to avoid the freedom, the fear of responsibility, the resistance against owning one's own choices. And the result is, it keeps them in an infantilized state forever. with none of the rewards of true, mature leadership is ever going to be available to them. I hear them on Facebook, and I go, wow, look at that. That's who I don't want to be. So when you don't get in the fusses on Facebook. I mean, here's the thing. I have a rule. If I slide it and I've seen it before, I quit looking. You need to put a timeout on that anyhow, right? It'll suck your time. Certainly has mine. So leaders are resource, responsibility, and respect. We stand in the confidence that there's always a way. There is a miracle inside of the impossible, but you don't find your miracle running from the impossible. You stand boldly like that firefighter and you face that fire. You study that fire. You shine that fire up in the light. You dust it off and you move it around. And inside of the impossible is the answer to your miracle. I've seen it time and time again. My whole career, it was impossible that I would finish a 35-year career, right? I mean, that was impossible. And then every day I showed up at the station, there was another impossible. My life began to be nothing but impossible situation after impossible situation after impossible situation. But you know what? The more impossibles I saw, the more miracles I witnessed. Quit running from your impossible, whatever it is. Quit running from it. Start running to it. Study it. Next slide. So conversations and assessments. These are things that leaders have to use as another tool. So let's go ahead and move it forward. So there's a science to conversations. So you're planting seeds inside your mind all day. So garbage in, garbage out. Anybody ever heard that in the old computer days? Where dot this and star that? Yeah. So what are you planting inside your mind? Some people laugh at me because I don't like scary movies. I don't want that in my mind. Plus, I've lived the real evil. As a paramedic, I don't want no more. No, I don't want no more of that, right? We reap what we sow, but what are you sowing in your thoughts? What are you sowing in your conversations? That's why I had to stop myself from saying, I kill you, right? It was cute, but it was stupid. Because I don't want that coming out of my mouth. My integrity says, no, I can't say those kind of things anymore. So do you sow thoughts of peace and joy? Who are you for others? Who you're being for them? Are you speaking a little possibility into their life? How are you spending your energy thinking? What are you thinking about? What are you thinking on? Because I'm going to tell you, there's people that are thinking on the next hit, the next drink, whether or not to kill themselves. You got to notice it if that shows up. You got to be paying attention. And you better create some possibility. No, I'm here for a reason. I've got things to do. I've got things that are more important than that. Sometimes you have to give yourself a little slap. That's not me. That's not who I am. That's not who I'm going to be. Next slide. We're having multiple conversations. You're having one right now about me. Some of you are having a conversation about what's next. Where do I have to go? What do I have to do? What's happening tomorrow? I wonder how my mom is. I wonder how my kids are. I wonder what I'm going to cook for dinner tonight. It's all there. We're having multiple. Leaders recognize their own conversations, their own thoughts that they're having. We have to recognize them. Because whatever your thoughts, your beliefs, your opinions, your dogmas are, you write and engrave upon yourself, you will manifestate them. You will create them. They will come true. I spoke once at a huge conference in Dallas. Huge conference in Dallas. And I was sick with the flu. And I was worried about blowing it. And guess what? I blew it. And I actually quit speaking for quite a while because of that. This gutted up girl wimped out. But it'll never happen to me again. And I cannot wait to be on center stage in Dallas, Texas next time. There is no way, come hell or high water, it's going to happen again. Because I know who I am today. Back then, I wasn't sure. Be sure who you are. Be sure who you can be inside of your life. Create possibility. Next slide. So I call it the cat in the room. What's the cat in the room? It's that negative thought that comes up. It's that disrespectful thing I think about somebody. It's that thing when the team lets me down and I'm mad and the cat starts meowing and I have a choice. I can either go over there and pet that cat, feel sorry for myself, or I can ignore the cat and I can go on about my business. So it's always going to show up for you. It's always going to be there meowing, pet me, be angry, be mad, be upset. You can just turn your back on it. It's a choice. And you can think about what's the next possibility for you. There's a possibility coming inside of any impossible situation, even with I'm not good enough. So there's rules for positive conversations. So if I'm ever in an upset, I call my twin sister. I have an identical twin. Her name is Sherrie, and I say, okay, I need 5 minutes. Okay? We call it verbal vomiting. We get to vomit for 5 minutes, and then I have to declare it over. And she'll go, time's up. And I'll say, but I need 5 more minutes. Nope, time's up. Declare it over. It's amazing. Life and death's in the power of your words. And when you say it's over, guess what? It's over. And so less and less do I have to call her. Sometimes she calls me. But inside of that, you've got to learn to select powerful words, encouraging words. Offer enough good words to people and to yourself. The difficult conversations, the uncomfortable things go away. It just is. Next slide. So I want you to notice your complaints about somebody or about yourself or about your husband. Study them, sift them. Shine them up in the light. Take a really good look. That's what leaders do. And they really see what's there. You don't just suppress it and say, oh, my highly self-flattering view says I'm not that. No, you're being that. Take a look at it. If you don't feel appreciated, what happens when you dwell on I don't feel appreciated? You actually do less. You pull back. You try to prove yourself right. The science says that you will find the evidence to prove yourself right. There's something about right and wrong. And when you're so right that you make other people wrong, it's not pretty. It's just not. Next slide. Emotional charge. Do you know what causes emotional charge? I have this conversation. I work for this one place, and they have the antiquated email system from HELL. I swear the devil himself made this system. And passwords, and I need a pretty easy password, right? Because, everything's passworded today, right? And so I had this story, and I had this emotional charge. I just don't even want to deal with them. This system is so hard. And then I got to looking at how much money I made with them, and I thought, well, it's really not that hard, right? I need to shut up. And I had to quiet that cat. That cat wanted me to pat it every time I went into that email system. And so I figured out a way to get around it. But you got to figure out what gives you an emotional charge and think about that and why. Now, it used to be people on the highway. Anybody get emotional on people cut you off on the highway? Some of you make little gestures and wave at them. Yeah. Yeah, or go around them or speed or whatever. Yeah. My brother, I used to ride with my brother in the car, and I said, Joseph, you're talking to the cars and they are not listening to you. So yeah, he would have conversations with these cars. But yeah, it would give him an emotional charge. Well, what would it be like if it didn't? What would it look like if you made a choice to just look at people and how they behave and go, oh, wow, looky there. Isn't that interesting? Thank God it's not me today. Maybe it was me yesterday, but it's not me today. And the way you do that is by making a conscious choice to choose not to have that emotional charge. I don't have near the emotional charge I used to have. When I was on the ambulance and, I ripped people from the jaws of death, I mean, there was charge all over the place. But we needed it then. I don't need that now. I don't need that kind of charge. But what's important is if you can't see that you're having charge, you can't shift. You've got to be able to see it in yourself. So today is not going back and telling your spouse or your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend what they need to do to change. This is not about them. It's about me. It's about you. It's about who you're being inside your life. So an assessment, it's just a thought, a feeling, or assumption. It's something that you entertain privately. Next slide. And so there's an impact when you don't give an assessment. So let me give an example. I'm sitting over here and Dee's doing something that's annoying me, right? And I don't tell him. I'm sitting over here in a conversation with myself going, I can't believe he's doing that. I've already talked to him about that. Oh my God. So I'm wasting all this time when if I just went over there and spoke to him, he might become more aware. Some science says we need to hear things 7 times. Maybe it's because you're ADD, I don't know. Sometimes I need more than that. Just depends. But when this happens, it self-verifies. We find evidence to support our assessment. So I'll go rock along and I'll go, see, there he did it again. Yeah. So, and I get angrier, right? I'm petting the cat. I'm petting that cat. It interferes with calibration and learning. So if you can't share and be open with your team members, because people, I can't say that. And I'm like, why not? I just say it. Just say it neutrally, but say it. Say it with a question. Wow. How do you think your leadership looks right now to me? It's just something to notice. Okay, it invites an attitude of superiority when you think you're better than them. It spreads throughout organizations like gossip and slander when you talk about one another. And then there's loss in the confidence in the team. Next slide. So the benefits of sharing is it's congruent with loving your neighbor by bringing offense. Bring that judgment into the light where it can be stirred and sifted. So then I walk over to Dee and I say, hey, Dee, I've talked to you before about blah, 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 and I noticed that, I have a request. That you really try not to do that. And he goes, wow, I didn't even realize I was doing it. Thanks for telling me. Does that totally transform the situation? Because I was a big girl and came over and made a request instead of staying in my, I'm not talking to you. And my face ain't listening to you because you didn't do what I asked the first time. When I know sometimes I need it 7 times. Next slide. So we want to go practice this. So you guys have been in some exercises with one another, right? You know a little bit about one another. So I want you to take a minute or 2 to turn to your partner and give them a quick assessment. What have you noticed about them? Now, I want it to be positive, okay, at this point. It's better to start off with positive. If we need to do a negative one, we can do it, but I'd rather it be a positive one. On your mark, get set, go. but he's hanging like an adult.
I know, he's hanging.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. Okay, did you share with both? If you haven't shared, flip. Did everybody get a turn?
Yes, we all shared. We shared.
You did? Next slide. All right, good. So be open to giving assessments. I even say to people, well, I know you really didn't ask for this feedback, but I'd like to give you some. And then I wait. Really? What is it? Now they just gave me permission, right? I told a guy yesterday, I said, you know, I really liked your class. It was a great class. You could use a little more organization here, and you're not charging enough. Just something to notice. He goes, you would pay more? And I said, absolutely. If you're more organized, then here's what you need to do. He goes, gosh, thanks for that assessment. So to give him any value? What was the value? Not only what he needed to do, but that he could actually benefit from it, right? So yeah, you want to give people value. So next slide, what stops us? There's things that stop us. They're called rackets and complaints. So just so you know, you have a conscious mind and a unconscious. Some people refer to it as the subconscious mind. So the conscious mind is like the tip of the iceberg. Do you see that? It's about 7 to 10% above the water. It's your awareness of what's going on. But inside of your life, there's darkness, there's unawareness, and that unawareness is going on in your subconscious or your unconscious mind. You're unaware of it. It's about 90 to 93% below the water, and it's where your winning strategies live. All right? Winning strategy, Sherrie Wilson, 101, force, control, and kick in. It was not a pretty lesson, I promise you. You can't see it except in the result, the impacts on people. Next slide. I'd rather be right. So here's my story about I'd rather be right. I want to lose 10 pounds, so I go on a diet. 7 to 10% of that is above the water. I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to be good, right? But unconsciously, I feel entitled that I want to eat what I want to eat, and it's just sugar. And I want more. 90 to 93% of it's below the water. It's an automatic default. It sabotages me, doesn't it? Yeah. And I eat what I want. So I notice the patterns that throw me into these automatic ways of being hungry or mad or angry or whatever there is. So we've talked about inside your leadership, you've got to get it out of that dark side and you've got to get it up into the light and study it, right? Dust it off. Look at it. See what's there. What's driving you? Next slide. So I consciously want to have a relationship. Let's say if you're a man, it's with a woman. If you're a woman, it's with a man. You don't have one right now, all right? So your belief system is that men or women, whichever the case, is not trustworthy. They're not honest. They violate. You're not safe with them. Now that, we all know that's based on past history, right? Something happened. So no matter how you push yourself in the direction of a relationship, it doesn't happen. Those conversations live under the water. You're not aware of them, but they're going on. You cautiously go on a date. You find yourself watching them, looking for evidence, right? And they say something off key, just something little. The antennas go up. You pull back. And then you notice he pulls back. And then you don't get the relationship. But you do get to be right. Humans would rather be right than have love or money. Next slide. So there's prices and payoffs for being right inside of your life. The price is that you get to be right, and you get to be righteous, and you get to be superior and prove your point and you get to elevate your contribution, right? And that makes you significant. It's the way you get to take care of yourself and not rely on others. You get to be an island, right? It usually comes out of bitterness from hurts in the past. But the price that you pay is that you have a barrier in your relationships with other people. That you have resentment because of it. And that you have increased stress and physical ailments because of your choices. You're lonely, you're isolated. And you can't see the possibility of teamwork. You're blinded to appreciation, and you think people have an ulterior motive. But you know what? There's something else that gets affected, and that's the prices other people pay, and they don't get to connect. There's no synergy. There's no sharing of your life. So I just want to challenge you that inside of your rightness, inside of your offense, inside of whatever it is that you have, there's a different choice to make. There's a different way to be. Because is it about you? Or is it about them inside your leadership? It's about them. And I'm going to tell you, anybody that's been married, I've been married 36 years. It's a lot of work. I have to face some things. I have to deal with issues. I can't run from it. I have to be in the moment. And you're going to have to do that over and over and over. And there are so many times that I see him do things and I think, oh my God, and I won't even finish saying it. Because if I do, life and death's in the power of my, and he's actually my charming. That's what everybody knows him as, is my charming. And you know what? He wasn't my charming when I first started calling him charming. He is today. Because I've called him charming for so long that he's actually charming. Right? Next slide. So irony is that rightness of judgment is bitterness to the heart. You have a strong desire to be part of a team, to be appreciated, to be loved, and to be included, whether that's a loving team or a work team. But you settle for a complaint that keeps you from doing exactly what you want to do. And that complaint is, I'm right. And they actually keep us from being who we want to be. And you say you want to be a leader. So what is the veiled complaint that you hear in the background of your life at this very moment? What is it you're dealing with? What issue are you facing that you're not being a full team player at? I can't call you on it. I don't even want to know. We don't have time to go through all that. But you know what it is. You know right here, right now. And some of you go, no, I don't. Well, if you did know, what would it be? What would it be? Because there's something stopping all of us in some areas of our life, and we have to be coached. Next slide. So we call it cordial hypocrisy. How many have done this? We have a strong tendency because of loyalty or fear to pretend that there's trust when there isn't. It's being polite, but privately you're indulging in cynicism and your own rightness or your distrust of someone. So to come out of a cordial hypocrisy relationship means you have to get over and provide information. And you have to clarify what's going on. You just do it neutrally. It's a difficult conversation, I get that, but just consider that you're a leader and you can do it. You can say what you need to say. Next slide. So cordial hypocrisy can be disguised as concern. I wish we could get that video to roll because that monkey is hilarious. They called it mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was actually good. I had a great mother-in-law, but I get it. I get. It's about talking about other people's struggles without sharing with them directly. How about what if you could just say it to them? Sharing your offense with others instead of speaking directly to the person who's offended you. It's just something to notice. Next slide. So offense, there's no love inside of offense, and there's no leadership in hating people, especially your team members. I mean, isn't that just plastered all over the news everywhere? You see it every day. You see it every day. If it's not this, it's that. It's groups, it's religious sects, it's you name it. And I'm just going to tell you, it's not a picture of love. And that, I can't trust that. I can't trust somebody who's going to go 0 to 60 and being offended every split second of the day, because I promise you, I get to be human, and so do you. Next slide. So, paradigms, real quickly, next slide. Paradigms, a typical example or pattern of something or a model, a set of linguistic items that form mutually exclusive choices. So let's just look at a paradigm. Oh wow, paradigm shift. What was his life before? Inside that egg. What's his life now? Oh wow, he gets to live in this big wide world. That's a paradigm shift. Folks, I'm inviting you to have a paradigm shift inside of your own leadership today, so that you go back and you see people differently. You see your world differently. Next slide. So there's a paradigm. Old people are what? Old people drive how? They're slow. Young people are what? They're what? Distracted. They're bad? Sass?
Fast.
Oh, fast. Yes, young people are fast. My boss is?
Annoying. Me.
Wow.
I'm just saying that was just something.
Oh, I know. Trust me. How about my partner is?
Wonderful.
See, mine's charming now, right? My kids are?
Crazy.
They're amazing. My work team is? Life and death is in the power of your words. What are you going to speak? Next slide. So paradigms, we see what we expect to see. So I need one person to read that. And Nikki, I'm just going to have you read that really quick. Read it exact.
We see what we expect to see. You are quite literally unable to perceive data before your very eyes.
Are you sure that that's what it says? D? What does it say?
Says what you said.
Speak it again.
We see what we expect to see. You are quite literally unable to perceive data before your very eyes.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
What does that say?
We see what we expect to see, and there's a colon.
Okay.
You are quite literally unable to perceive.
Whoa. Unable to, stop, go to the next line.
To.
Do you get it?
Yes.
We see what we expect to see. You're quite literally unable to perceive data in front of your very eyes. Do you get it? Yeah. That happens all the time. It doesn't just happen to you, it happens to me. We edit, we delete, we generalize information. So now that you know it, would it be worth it to maybe double check it and make sure? And it wasn't designed to make you look wrong or bad, it's just designed to prove science. So how many are there? 3 or 4? That's life, folks. Is it 3 or if it's 4? It depends on the eyes you're looking with. It's like rose-colored glasses that you put on, and they're called your past. Your past hurt, your past situation, your culture, your religion, your belief. Take those glasses off and be with people. Next slide. Corey, I was just kidding. You don't have to take your glasses off. So I love this one. It's the 3 blind men paradigm, because some of them think it's a wall, it's a rope, it's a tree trunk, it's a snake, it's a fan, and it's a spear.
Oh, that's funny.
That is life. It's all in the eye of the beholder as to what it is. And what makes each one of those different? Their location, their experience, their beliefs, their religion, their past hurts. It tells them where they're at. Next slide. So a paradigm shift. I love this. The phonograph is not of any commercial value. Thomas Edison said that in 1880. Is that true? The phonograph is now your iPhone, folks. Flight by machines heavier than air is unpractical, insignificant, if not utterly impossible. That an astronomer said that in 1902. Is that true? No. It's an idle dream to imagine that automobiles will take the place of railways in the long-distance movement of passengers. Is that true? Next slide. Who wants to hear actors talk? Warner Brothers, 1927. Is that true? I think there's a world market for about 5 computers. Chairman of IBM. Is that true? No. Women can't be firefighters. Old friend of mine said that. Mr. No, you can't. All right, next slide. So paradigms power your perceptions, and your perceptions power your emotions. So you can actually choose to be a lot less emotional if you tend to want to see it a different way, which means it involves a choice, which means it involves loving people in the face of their mess. Yeah, you can see something different. Stubborn problems require a shift in your paradigm. I'm going to tell you, we were at an Influence conference, it was Influence 17 down in Orlando, and it was a huge paradigm shift for us in our speaking careers. It was amazing. I was so touched, moved, and inspired. I couldn't wait to get home and write. It was amazing. You want to be. Do you know the science shows that you will be a culmination of the top 5 people you hang with? So who are you hanging with? Who are you running with? Because that's who you're going to be. That's where you're going to end up. Just look at it and go, wow, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm headed. So when you're with people that don't have it going on, and they're negative and they're fussy and they're whining and they're always complaining, I love them, but I got to go. I got things to do. Next slide. So the next lesson, and one of the final ones, there's actually just 2 quick lessons. Get over yourself. So let's go to the next slide. So what do I mean? I want you to stop it about your successes as well as your breakdowns. Some of you have had some major mistakes happen in your life, and you haven't forgiven yourself. You're letting them stop you from moving forward. Your history, your agenda, perspective, your judgments, your comparisons, your stories, your right to defend yourself, to be right. Get over your expectations. Get over giving up on people, on using people, on your assumptions and your offenses and your hurts. Give them up. Move on, because that's when your world will open up. Next slide. Forgiveness is the name of love practiced among people who love poorly. The hard truth is that all of us love poorly. We need to forgive and be forgiven every day, every hour, unceasingly, and that's the great work of love among the fellowship of the weak. It's called the human family. Next slide. So your stop at homework. You get to make a list of people that you've been on it with. So who you been on it with? You get to tell them what you've been on it about. You get to tell them that you've made it up. But. Yes, you made it up. You get to declare that you're off it. And you don't get to neglect their experience. What is their experience? And it might be painful for you to hear. One of the best lessons I learned from life was that painfulness that I caused in a relationship. It's just something to notice. But keep relating to them. Next slide. So, we're going to do a personal declaration. Now, this is a good point. I want you to turn to this in your handouts. Next slide. And a personal declaration. You will have an opportunity in a few moments to create your personal leadership declaration. It's about who you are individually. It's about your gift to the world. It's like an invention. It's a statement because you say it's so, it's so. So you use your words to create a possibility of being inside your leadership. Once created, you use it as a youthful reminder. Now, to remember, my winning strategies was force, control, and kick in the door in the fire department. That didn't work inside the training center business, just so you know. I had to make create a new possibility, and I created the possibility that I wanted to be love and joy and peace to people. And I don't know, I still work at it every day, but I have a new goal to shoot for, and it certainly made me ignore kick in, force, and control, right? So I have something different. Next slide. So begin brainstorming all the characteristics that you're committed to embody. And so what are some of the characteristics you think you see in a leader? Give me some. Honesty. Humility. Servitude. I can't hear you. Fairness. Perseverance. What else? Resilience. Trustworthy. Okay, so write down all of these that you want to be. Just write them down. Just start jotting them really quick. I'll give you 30 seconds. On your mark, get set, go. All right, next slide. So pick the top 3 that you've got written down. Pick 3 that are your most favorite. So for me, I am a loving, joyful, and peaceful leader. Do you get that? So now with your partner, I want you to share what you created for yourself. And you want to speak it exactly. I am a blank, blank, and blank leader. Okay? On your mark, get set, share with your partner. Okay, if you haven't flipped, let the other person take their turn. All right, good. Is there anybody out there brave enough, bold enough to share? Okay. All right.
I am a considerate, inclusive, and transparent leader.
All right. Anybody else?
I am a success story, a child of God, and an assertive leader.
All right. Do you believe what they have to say? Yeah. Whenever you stand up, you've got to not only speak it, but you got to believe it. Now, your challenge is, I had to remind myself, because remember, force control and kicking the door was the way I took care of business for 35 years. And so I had to be reminded. So I got me a little sticky note, and I reminded myself every morning when I was brushing my teeth that I was love, joy, and peace. Okay? Because it had to replace, and it had to be fed into my mind more, right? Next slide. So we're going to share among your partners, okay? So on your mark, A, you're going to share first. B, you're going to share second. On your mark, get set, go. Okay, flip. Make sure your other partner gets a chance to talk. All right. So, what are you going to put in place to make sure that this sticks for you? What can you do? Sticky notes work well. What else? What else could you do? Repeat it. Because when you speak it, remember, you're creating neural pathways. The neural pathways are prime commands to your brain. So if you're saying to your brain, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, guess what? You're going to go find evidence to prove yourself correct. But if you're speaking it so much that it overwhelms the negative,
Sometimes even though you have the negative thought process, you still have to verbalize the positive. I spent a number of years verbalizing positive self-image before I understood and ascertained that thought process.
that's true. She said that even though you speaking it, you still sometimes have that negative thought process, and you've got to verbalize it over and over and over to get your mind in that mode. So that's true. Next slide. So this is the last lesson. Wow, y'all made it. Next slide. This one's on appreciation. So appreciation is the act of estimating the qualities of things. It's giving them proper value. It's an increase in the rise and value of others. It's what leaders do. It's a favorable evaluation, or better yet, it's the fundamental need of every human being is to be appreciated. Okay? So it's beautiful satisfaction. Next slide. So we're going to do a mingle. Now, I don't think we need 10 minutes, but maybe about 5 minutes. And we're going to take time, and it's not just with your partner, but it's with people around the room. And I want you to come mingle right up in here so that we can all kind of be close together and and I can hear what you're talking about. But we're going to do a mingle and be specific. You know people enough right now in this room that you can appreciate them. Okay? So go try and tell every person what it is you appreciate. I'll come join you.
I appreciate your willingness to participate.
You did all right, kid.
Thank you.
Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
I can, I good listener. That's a discussion for another.
I appreciate everything you have done for me and speaking and all the lives that you continue to touch. And I'm so willing to just take it all in. And I just want to continue to learn, to grow from you. And I'm so excited to be part of this journey with you. And I love you.
Aw, you're so sweet. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate that you were just willing to try and please. And you put all those shoes up that I got out of my closet that I was going to get rid of.
Ooh,
It's okay. No, it's all right. It's good. It's good.
I appreciate you because you're fabulous and I love you.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I'm just telling the truth.
I appreciate you because you are an inspiration to others, other women who are trying to break those barriers. So good job.
All right. Well, thank you. Did you get everybody?
Yes.
Did you get everybody in the room?
I appreciate your transparency as far as things that have happened to you in life, because I can relate a lot
You're next.
to that. So, so thank you for being so transparent.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you're one of those people whenever they call and they, if there's a problem, I'm going to go, no, not her.
I was
Same.
going to tell her what I appreciate. I appreciate knowing that a smile will get a smile.
Okay.
And,
That's what I appreciate. Because
Okay.
when she smiles, I smile back. That
well,
means
I
I'm
appreciate
positive.
you. I
Right.
appreciate you for coming so far. I appreciate you for being coachable. I appreciate you for being part of a great team. Yeah. All right.
I appreciate that you showed me another side of you. At first, I only saw the dominant side.
Oh, you saw the force control and kicking the door.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And when you were up there, you had a different aura. It was great. It was a different aura. It was a different aura to where I'm like, hey, how you doing? Instead of, hey, how you doing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, my role's different.
I know that. I know that. And unfortunately, I had to put you in a role, but now I see you in another role, which is
Yeah. Yes, you can. Yes. Okay. They change out that often? They wear out that often?
Once they get low, they go fast.
Okay. Well, I thank you for being Mr. Johnny on the spot.
I didn't want you to get to the last 30 minutes, the last hour, and it give
All right.
out.
We're almost done. Go to sleep. All he's got to do is relax, baby. I got it. I got it from here. You're like, okay.
No.
We can't get nothing.
Yeah.
He's got musical talents. He just
Yeah.
Can't carry a note.
All right. Okay. Well, do you need a quick bathroom run? We're almost done.
No,
Okay. All right. I think we're good. Okay, next slide. So, on page 3, under leadership introduction, what was your complaint? Take a look at that and see what your complaint was. So I just want to ask a question. You don't have to answer it. If you want to, it'd be great, but how will you handle it differently, provided with the tools that we've talked about today? Is there something that you might do differently next time? There is? Good. So, next slide. So, our thoughts on leadership, we're all called to lead and we're all called to follow. It's just a matter of timing. When I'm with Nikki, I have to follow Nikki. When I'm with Larissa, I have to follow Larissa. When I'm at NSA, I follow the leader at NSA. When I'm at church, I follow the leader at my church. Now, I'm not saying you have to absorb every single thing out there. You're always weighing and judging and taking, picking up, I call it picking up a gold nugget and putting it in your bag. And eventually you're going to have a bag, right? That's what life is. Keep picking up the gold nuggets. If it doesn't fit, it's okay. Move on. Integrity is the foundation of your success inside your leadership, because people are actually going to look to who you are, and then they're going to mimic that. Challenge provides opportunity for greatness. Quit running from the challenges. Say, bring them on. Let me hear you say it. Bring it on. Bring it on. There you go. You want to face those challenges because you're going to grow inside of those. Leaders are team players. Leadership is having a relationship with people. And it's the first ingredient of a miracle is your impossible situation. Quit running from the impossible. Next slide. So in every encounter, we either offer life or we suck it. Leadership is not always about being right. It's not always about being perfect or efficient, but it's about how we live with one another. So leaders leave other people touched, moved, and inspired, and our interactions with people either boost humanity or it weakens it. So my challenge is to you is, which one are you going to be? Are you going to boost humanity? Or are you going to put people in their place? It's just something to notice. And that people need a chance. And people need honest, difficult conversations, but they're neutral. And they're loving. Sometimes I'll say the words, this is going to be a difficult conversation, but please know that I'm coming from my heart with what I'm going to say to you. And when you do, people are like, oh, wow. It kind of makes them go inside their head and think critically about what you're saying. But it's not what you say, it's who you be when you say it. That's the difference. Next slide. So, what'd you learn today? Give me one valuable tool that you walked away with today that's going to make a difference. Yell it out.
We always have a choice.
Yeah, you have a choice. What's another one?
Stay humble.
Do what?
Stay humble.
Stay humble. Nikki? I thought I saw your hand go up.
No, you're making my hand go up.
I'm making your hand.
I think I like that Mark Twain quote about that the world doesn't owe you.
Yeah. Yeah. Next. Okay. So, what questions do you still have? Anybody? What questions? So, how will you apply it moving forward? Are you going to think differently? Is it going to challenge you inside your conversations? So now you're going to have a conversation about your conversations, right? I have a conversations about my conversation. I'll go, okay, nope, Sherrie, nope, pay attention. Nope, you can't do that. Nope. Oh, that's your highly self-flattering view. Get it out of the way. It's stinky, it's ugly, it's dirty. Yeah, get it, go on, move on, next. Love people, be with people. Yeah, makes a difference. Next slide. So I want to thank you for being here today, and I just really want to appreciate you and honor you for helping me. This was a big deal. It was an expensive proposition. It was a lot of hard work has gone into that keynote. This training I've been doing for a long time. It's different up here with the lights shining down on me, but yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. But I just want to thank you. You guys have been an awesome audience, and I love each and every one of you in a different way. You have a different role in my life, but anyhow, thank you so much. I appreciate you for being here. All right. Okay. I am so